be one of the most progressive sanghas that I have the privilege to associate with. And my obeisances to all of you, and thank you for for giving us the opportunity for reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. So today's topic, as we've been going through the verses, is this Vasudeva stops Kamsa. So we're on that very tense part of that story that we've been following. And it's the first chapter of the 10th canto, which itself is a very important chapter, which is the most important canto, as we know. So this is a very interesting section of the story that we can definitely reflect on. All right? So we'll start. Let's see. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna, Madana Gopal Prabhu, we can't hear you. I thought it was just you, but...
Oh, I think I must have muted myself. I was reading and then, okay, I'll start again. Thank you. Esha tavanuja bala kripana putrikopama hantum narhasi kalyanim imam tvam dinavatsala. So this is Vasudeva speaking to Kansa. He says, as your younger sister, this poor girl Devaki is like your own daughter and deserves to be affectionately maintained. You are merciful, and therefore you should not kill her. Indeed, she deserves your affection. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Sa Samabhir Bhedair Bodhyamanopi Daruna Nanyavatartata Kauravya Purushadananuvrata. Now Shukadev Goswami continues, O best of the Kuru dynasty, Kansa was fiercely cruel and was actually a follower of the Rakshasas. Therefore, he could be neither pacified nor terrified by the good instructions given by Vasudeva. He did not care about the results of sinful activities, neither in this life or in the next. Nirbandham tasya tam gyatva vichintyana kadundubhi praptam kalam prativyodhum idam tatranvapadyata. When Vasudeva saw that Kansa was determined to kill his sister Devaki, he thought to himself very deeply. Considering the imminent danger of death, he thought of another plan to stop Kansa. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Although Vasudeva saw the imminent danger that his wife Devaki would be killed, he was convinced of his welfare because at his birth, the demigods had played drums and kettle drums. He therefore attempted another way to save Devaki. I'll just make an interesting point here that you notice Srila Prabhupada mentions, kind of out of the blue, at his birth, demigods had played drums and kettle drums. Where does he find that? Where do we get that notion that demigods played drums when Vasudeva was born? And interestingly, it's right in the verse. It's not in the translation, but it's in Sanskrit. Because the name of Vasudev in this verse is Anakadundubhi, which is interesting because Vasudeva is one of, his, how, these great devotees, great people, they have multiple names named after their qualities and things like that. And here Vasudeva is not called Vasudeva in the verse. He's known as Anakadundubhi. And Anaka Dundubi are two kind. Anak is a kind of a drum, and Dundubi is another kind of drum. So these two types of drums were played. It's like saying, bass drum and snare drum. That's another name. Bass snare drum is another name for somebody. So he's named after two types of drums because that's what the demigods played. It's not in the translation, but Prabhupada kind of highlights that in the purport to show that Vasudeva knew that he's meant for doing great things, and his life is really just getting started. So that's a very interesting side point here. So it's nice to kind of make the connection and go back to the Sanskrit. So the purport ends here. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahakana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you all for joining. I see some other devotees also joined in the interim. So thank you for participating this morning. So we're talking about Vasudeva, father of Krishna, of course. Now, Vasudeva's position is a great one. Father of Krishna. His name is in the opening line of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Srila Prabhupada translates that first line in Srimad Bhagavatam two ways. That, obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the son of Vasudeva and who is all-pervading. So Vasudeva has two meanings. Vasudeva means one who's all-pervading. His nivas, his residence is everywhere. And another meaning of Vasudeva means son of Vasudeva. So Vasudeva's position is great. He's the father of that Lord who is the father of all species, the father of everybody else. So it's quite astounding, his position. It's not a trivial position of Vasudeva. He's great. And you can see he tried so hard to save Krishna. And before that, he's trying very hard now. Here we see in this episode to save Krishna's mother, Devaki. This is just at the wedding. The wedding is just complete. It's really a wonderful occasion. But it turned sour pretty quickly. So here we see Vasudeva And the last few verses also that we've been reading, right? Vasudeva is that sober, life-saving, tactical voice who saves the day with his quick thinking and powerful but humble words. He has a humble tone, very powerful. He tries all kinds of things, and the words that are rooted deeply in Scripture. So let's observe how he tackled this crisis by appealing to the various possible perspectives that Kamsa might be coming from. So one, he started out by highlighting the glory of the great family. Kansa, he said, "My dear brother-in-law Kansa, you are the pride of your family. The Bhoja dynasty. And great heroes praise your qualities." So you see, he's appealing to that, being praised aspect of it. Everybody praises you. You're a hero. Not only you're born in great family, but you're known to be doing heroic things. How could such a qualified, praiseworthy person like you kill a woman? Any woman. And what to speak of any woman? Your own little sister. And that especially on the occasion of her marriage. That was his first angle. He tried to appeal to Kansa. And then he saw it didn't work. So then did he give up? No. Then he tried a different angle. He talked about the philosophy of the soul and the temporary nature of our material existence. He said, "Oh, great hero, one who takes birth is sure to die, for death is born within the body, with the body. One may die today or after hundreds of years, but death is sure for every living entity." In that verse, Sri Prabhupada then quotes Krishna's Bhagavad Gita verse, "Jatasihi dhruva mrityur," that is certain. One who is born, death is certain. So this knowledge was there. Of course, this is before Krishna was born, right here, before Bhagavad Gita was spoken. But this is universally understood knowledge, Vedic knowledge, which was everybody understood, and people quoted it all the time. Krishna had to come back again to reestablish, right? He said, "I come again to reestablish dharma." So it does tend to get lost, but here it was generally known. And he's quoting it to Kansa to see if Kansa may think philosophically. Yeah, actually, you're right. What's the point of all this? Making a big deal of anything. I'm going to die today, tomorrow. It's what's going to happen. It's going to happen. Why should I kill my sisters and do such a ghastly thing? Let me put down my sword. But he didn't. It did not work. In today's verse, we saw Shukadeva Goswami highlighting that these philosophical entreaties didn't appeal to Kansa, didn't work at all. And then after that, he said, "Okay, let's try a different angle." He appealed to the dependent relationship of his dear sister. That was today's verse, that an older brother or even a younger brother, just the brother of any woman, is someone that the sister can go to for protection, for care, for affection. If that same brother comes to kill her with a sword, then what recourse does she have? If the person that you're trying to get protection from, what can you do if that same protector comes and attacks you? So even that didn't work, appealing to that whole relationship aspect of it. But he didn't give up. So here Shukadeva Goswami turns and says he tried something else. See, he kept on trying. And of course, Srila Prabhupada in the purport says that Vasudeva knew that he's meant to do great things. He knew from the beginning because there were signs. So his confidence was strong. Doesn't mean that he wasn't shaken. He was quite shaken. We read that later on as it progresses, that Vasudeva, although quite shaken from within, kept a smiling face when trying to appeal to Kansa. I mean, that's amazing. It's not easy to do in this kind of situation. It's a very shocking situation. And he knows Kansa's power. Kansa can just do it. He can just kill her. And of course, Kansa is so great and big, he can get away with it too. In the sense he'll continue being the king or whatever he wants to do, because he has that kind of influence and power. And we see demoniac people even today, the leaders who say that, I can kill somebody in the middle of the street and get away with it. And they make those kind of proclamations. We've seen that even in this modern day. So Kansa knew, and Vasudeva knew, that Kansa could kill his own sister right then and there. But Vasudeva kept smiling, and he did not give up. And he went on to propose that, okay, I mean, the Akashvani, the sky voice, said that her son will kill you. If you have any fear of death, well, the fear should not be directed toward Devaki. It should be directed toward her sons. So I promise you that I will, bring forth all our children to you, Kansa, no matter what. And that, we know later on as we read that it ended up working. But he did try all kinds of things. He did not give up. And this way he averted disaster. Now, let's think about this a little bit further. There is a famous analogy found in Native American wisdom. I'm sure you've heard this many times. The analogy of the two wolves. That in our heart, there are two wolves. One is a good wolf and one is a bad wolf. And they're always fighting for supremacy. Every now and then they get into a fight. Every now and then they find themselves in a situation where they have to decide who is going to dominate, whose will is going to dominate in that situation. So the analogy, of course, is in us that there's a good person, bad person, the good wolf and the bad wolf. And the good wolf represents all that is progressive, that is uplifting spiritually, that is good for one's own body, mind, and soul, that is good for the environment, good for other people, that is uplifting, nourishing, etc., etc. And the bad wolf represents everything that is opposite, that is selfish, that is destructive, that just goes for the temporary pleasures that are centered around one's own selfishness, and then will do anything at all costs to ensure that the sense gratification or personal selfish needs are met, and to help with the environment, to help other people's feelings, and to help with my own health also. So those two elements are there when we are conditioned. We are all divided souls in this conditioned world. Those of us who are conditioned materially. So every now and then, the two wolves fight. Not all the time. Every now and then. And sometimes the good wolf wins, and sometimes the bad wolf wins. So which wolf will win more often? That wolf will win more often who has been fed more often, who has had a healthy diet and good care. So since both the wolves live in our heart, within our own being, we are feeding both of them. But interestingly, what food the good wolf likes, the bad wolf will not touch. And vice versa. Whatever the bad wolf likes, the good wolf will not touch. There's only one bowl. There's only one feeding bowl in the heart. Okay. And if you put in that feeding bowl something that nourishes the good wolf will lap it up, get stronger, more dominant, and then when the next fight comes, the good wolf will just smilingly win. And the bad wolf day after day, we'll get starved and we'll keep losing. And that's really the goal of those of us who are trying to be progressively advanced in spiritual life. So what is this feed that we're talking about, this food? So we all know it's a regular, it's a gradual thing that we have to do regularly. Whatever we eat, I'm talking physically even, food that we eat, if it is prasadam that's offered with love and affection, it'll feed the good wolf. And of course we eat in the right quantities, the right quality, make sure it's actually prepared in the mode of goodness with the right consciousness. Then it's prasadam. Make sure it's offerable, make sure it's offered nicely, the right consciousness to the Lord, and eaten also with the right consciousness, right mood, and so on, at the right time, so that it nourishes the body, mind, and the soul. That's the food. And then other foods also, which are subtle, what we read, what we discuss, what we think about, what we watch on different medias, how we discuss things, what we decide to talk about, what we decide to not talk about, all those things, who we decide to give our ear to, who we open up our hearts to, what message we allow ourselves to be influenced by. So many choices we make every day. And what we process and filter for what comes in inevitably or inadvertently, and how we decide to discard or to engage with it mentally. That all determines what ends up in the wolf's feeding bowl. And then whichever wolf gets nourished, the next time there's a fight, there's a discussion, there's a conflict, and a decision needs to be made and action needs to be taken. That action will reflect which wolf has been fed more or better. Which is why Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, all these great scriptures, they keep emphasizing that we should hear regularly, like all of you are doing on a daily basis. It's so wonderful to be in this association. Hear from the Bhagavatam regularly. It strengthens the good wolf. Take darshan of the deity. This strengthens us. The good, the progressive part of us. Discuss positively. Avoid negative discussions. Avoid discussions that we know don't have the right vibe. Even avoid company of people, of anybody who we feel is bringing us down in our spiritual path. Because inevitably what happens, we end up putting the wrong food in the bowl, So we have to be careful. The bottom line of this understanding is that feed the good wolf regularly. Why? We have to be aware that we have both wolves. Just as both wolves are within us, we can see that within us we have these divine qualities and we have this wisdom, but we also have the Jagai Madai element. We just heard of these stories of Jagai Madai. Lord Nityananda's appearance was just, 2 days ago. It was very, you can't celebrate Lord Nityananda's appearance without talking about Jagai Madai. And this is the season of celebration of Lord Chaitanya and his pastimes coming up. Mahaprabhu's appearance is coming up. And Lord Nityananda, you remember this story, reminds Mahaprabhu that don't kill them, please. I know that, sure, they must have done something offensive, but actually, if you start killing, then you have to basically kill almost everybody in Kali Yuga. Because everyone has these, Jagai Mada in them. They're basically, more or less, everyone in Kali Yuga, for the most part, are demoniacally inclined, right? Who are you going to kill? Who are you not going to kill? I mean, look at these guys. You can see this Jagai Madai. I mean, you can see he even has this Brahmin thread on. They were actually Brahman born, but their behavior was not that great. So, in this Kali, there will be so many who are posing as Brahmanas, but, the behavior may not be the best. But Mahaprabhu, you have to save them. Yar Patita Pavan. So the point here is that we need to recognize in our hearts that we do have these two elements always fighting for supremacy. Even Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that the three modes are always fighting for supremacy. The modes are inanimate things. How do they fight? They fight, what appears to be a fight is the choices that the soul makes, the living soul. Like soul is the living part. And whichever modes they decide to get engaged in, that'll become prominent part, and then those modes then will become, either stronger or weaker depending on what choices we make as as living beings. So similarly, there's this two good and bad elements that are fighting for supremacy. So we have this Kansa element and a Vasudeva element also. That's the take home from this story we can take, right? The Kansa element may show his true colors at the worst possible time and destroy everything. I mean, here you can see destroy his own good name, his relationships with everyone, the peace in society, the peace of the family. And this we can see happens in our lives, actually. That we may be going through life very nicely, everything is good, the wife is happy, the husband is happy, the children are happy. And all of a sudden, someone does something that just appeals to that Kansa element and just goes out and just destroys the whole situation. Sometimes just one episode, or sometimes a gradual thing. We just do something really bad day after day and just breaks the camel's back. In any case, whatever that may be, in those situations in our lives, we can always trace back and see, okay, which wolf was being fed more, what was being appealed to? Why was the Vasudeva element not strengthened? So the Vasudeva element will employ all possible ways to save the occasion and live to see another day. In this case, we see, right, he tried all kinds of things. At all costs, save the life, save, retain the possibility of a positive future. So when we're fighting our own internal battles too, we have to ask ourselves, am I doing my part to feed the good wolf? Am I doing my part to ensure that tomorrow or today also that I will be more Krishna conscious? If I can't do that, can I at least retain my level of Krishna consciousness that I had yesterday? And if I can't do that, well, if I'm slipping down, then can I at least not slip so far that it becomes impossible to come back up in this life? You see, if not this, then that. So Vasudeva keeps trying and trying and trying. Even if he has to make some concessions, but save the possibility of a brighter future. He had to make concessions. Offering his children was not his first choice. It wasn't the first thing he proposed. It was the last one. That's a big concession. But he chose to save the life, to live another day, so that there's a possibility of a future. So this is something we can take home, we can learn. Who will win in our lives? It's a question we have to ask. So thank you very much for engaging in this discussion and for joining us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Madana Gopal Prabhu, beautiful presentation. I really like how you elaborated on this analogy of the wolves. How one wolf, one touch, the food meant for another. That's a really good point. Adipusha Prabhu, Anupam, Angel, please contribute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu. You have a bit of an echo.
1 second, they're adjusting the sound. Yeah, Hare Krishna, fantastic class. I mean, your spiritual masters empower you, and we are so inspired. We can only respond. How can we serve you? I was actually praying like that, and we want to assist you in your activity of bringing people to engage in Krishna's devotional service. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so we can offer you, it's small, we take care of distributing Krishna's prasadam for the homeless here in Manhattan. And if you have people that are, respecting you and, inspired by you, and if you want to offer them another opportunity to engage in devotional service, please let them look at the Instagram, Interfaith _NYC. And maybe that will help them come closer to Krishna if they serve like that. I don't know what else to offer you, but if there's any other way we can serve you, we know that you're inspiring so many people that they say, here's a person of integrity and wisdom and sincerity, and let me serve this person. Let me engage in devotional service to Krishna. How wonderful is Krishna that he's letting us understand your existence. Okay, I'll go to Prabhupada.
Thank you for kind words. We will definitely. This is good to know, because every now and then we do bring our group of devotees down to Manhattan. I brought our whole group down for the first time. Many of them had not seen 26 Second Avenue and so on, and to see the Pastime Prabhupada and Tompkins Square Park. So this is wonderful that you have this, and maybe what we can do is we can coordinate, so when I bring my group again, that we can engage in like an all-day seva with you, and this way we can collaborate and taste the nectar of serving prasadam to others. I think it'll be great.
Business service that people can relate to. Yes. And we're in the midwinter. We just lost our kitchen, and we're just constructing another kitchen, so we're really scrambling. It's dramatic and exciting. And Krishna's grace, it's going on. We've been doing this 23 years without missing a day.
Yeah.
Prabhupada's grace and mercy. We have no
feeding the right wolf for the past 20-something years.
We want to inspire people to service to Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. This is great.
We're going to Prabhupada.
We will definitely take you up on it this year. Yes.
There's some appreciations in the chat.
Oh yeah, I see some. Thank you for kind words, Athena, and then we have iPhone. Thank you, iPhone. Thank you, Athena.
iPhone is Preeti. I think it's Preeti. Preeti, is that you? Preeti. Okay. I have a question. So how do we recover from the bad wolf defeating the good one? When we see that happening in our life, devotionally, materially, when we see that our spirits are down, we just fell for it. We just followed our uncontrolled mind and did something that is silly, that is not good for us. So what to do? How to recover? What's the mentality for recovery from the bad wolf winning?
Yeah. The answer to almost all the questions that come up for this sort of thing, and you've heard this answer millions of times, is association, right? You just associate with somebody who has it, right? That's the standard answer we get. Ultimately, we can go roundabout. It all boils down to association. There's also other things beyond association, or that association can specifically help us with. And that is primarily a hope. You see, the hope and the strength to succeed. So what is the definition of succeeding? What is the definition of success in spiritual life or in anything? The definition of success is to stand up just one more time than the number of times we fall. So if I've fallen 550 times, I should be able to stand up 551 times. That's success. You see, success doesn't mean that I fell only 3 times and that other fellow fell 500 times. No. Success means if I stood up one more time, then I fell. There's a nice verse in the 11th canto. Ya nasthaya naro rajan na pramadyeta karhichit dhavan nimilyavanetre na skhalena na patediha. This is in the 11th canto. In the 11th canto, text number, chapter 2, text 35, it says, O King, one who accepts the process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead will never blunder on his path in this world. Even while running with his eyes closed, he will never trip or fall. Imagine the promise given in the Bhagavatam. The process is so strong. It's worth, this is one of those, really nice quotable verses worth learning, at least learning of its existence so we can always refer to it. 11 to 35, 11th canto, that the process is so potent and powerful. Just by accepting the process. One can run with his eyes closed and not trip and fall, which means the Lord is carrying us through, you know. And what is this process? Process is giving a sincere go at it, you know, a sincere attempt. It's an internal process. My Lord, today, please give me the strength to come closer to you. I know I'm fighting my wolves. Unfortunately, I've fed the bad wolf too long. Unfortunately, I've made those choices, and those fights do take place, and the good wolf keeps getting battered up, and I do keep getting, you know, down and all that. But I know there's always hope, because one, we are eternal beings. We'll never stop existing. So that's one huge thing in our favor. No matter what, we'll not stop existing. Then why do we, when we hit rock bottom, say, okay, I want to stop existing now? We cannot. Even if you want to, we can't stop existing. So then might as well make the best of it. Sometimes we may think that, we may even think that being eternal is a curse. Life is so bad. I wish I just didn't exist. Eternality is a curse. Okay, well, if it's a curse, then let's make the best use of a bad bargain. Let's come out of this junk situation we're in and deal with it. So you can see eternality in good way or bad way too. So the hope is really what keeps us going. And where do we get hope from? From those devotees who will give us hope, who will give us encouragement. Which is why then, if we find ourselves in circle of devotees, let us also be the hope for somebody else. Even though we may not be totally strong in every aspect of Krishna consciousness, it doesn't matter. We're giving hope to ourselves and we give encouragement to others. Why? Because the world is already a very discouraging place. If they come in the circle of devotees and we offer them more discouragement, you know, I mean, encouragement is our flagship product, encouragement and love. You know, that's the flagship product of the Krishna consciousness movement. You know, so if we giving that in profusion, in great quantities and great quality, then it'll give hope to everybody, and it'll give hope to us. You know, so hope, encouragement, and the right association, I would say, would be what we want to saturate our lives with, and this will kind of lift us out of this negative cycles that are inevitable. You know, just part of the process.
Thank you, Madana Gopal Prabhu. Beautiful, very inspiring. Thank you for giving me this flagship product, spoon feeding me with hope. Adipusha Prabhu, go ahead.
I think you're muted, Prabhuji.
Yeah, fantastic answer. And it boils down to, like you said, association. And the effect of association is it modifies our desire. Want to answer that question? Excellent question. Our desire. Because Subhasha Chahamriti said, Krishna is in the heart, and he sees, you know what? I really want to clean up my life. I really want to serve you. I really want to give myself. When we desire that, like you said, Krishna steps in and he helps you. And even says, you know, sometimes people get discouraged, they're having trouble, they're difficulty, fall down, you know, mistakes. We offer ourselves to Krishna just as we are. Lord, this is what I'm doing, my humble best. And the criteria is Krishna is pleased by that. Because a sinful person is one who delights in sin. Somebody may fall down, but if they delight in sin and they're enthusiastically pursuing that, feeding the bad wolf, then that's a big problem. So our desire is essential.
Yes. That's a great point. Thank you, Adipur. That's a great point. Thank you, Prabhuji. This is, you know, association not only modifies our desire, it also modifies our irrational emotions. It's true. I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. You know, in India, we have these huge weddings, right? And they're beautiful events. I mean, you saw today's thing was a wedding, right? Kansas and this wedding going on. So at the time when the wedding is over and then the girl has to go to the boy's house finally, and everybody is like bidding farewell and she's getting on the chariot or the car and getting, you know, in Indian weddings, that is called Vidai. Vidai means the departure or the farewell ceremony. This is a ceremony. And that ceremony, everybody is crying. The father of the bride is crying, the mother of the bride is crying, the sisters, brothers, and the whole 750 people are also crying. You know, that's a small wedding in India, is 750 people. So they're all crying. So I'd been to several of them and I said, okay, I'm going to another one. I'm not going to cry. I didn't even know the guy. He was just a friend of a friend. And I said, I'm not going to cry this time because that's just silly. And then when the Vidai came and they're playing the Vidai instruments and everybody's crying, I was the first one to just break down and start crying. I didn't even know the girl or the boy. I was just crying and crying. I'm like, what? I said, I promise I'm not going to cry. But the emotional saturation was so strong. Everybody's crying. We cannot help it. That's the power of association, that even when you're associating, imagine you're associating with 10 other devotees who are all chanting such good japa and the tears coming down their eyes and their room is reverberating with spiritual love. How can that not move our heart? It's not just modification of our desire. It moves us at a subconscious emotional level that we can't even control. It's much more powerful than just our desires. It moves us and drives us to do things that are even considered irrational. Why are you crying? It should be a happy moment. But they're all crying, so it's gonna make you cry too. That's why we associate closely with progressive devotees. At the same time, we also want to watch out for devotees who we should avoid, by the way. Now, this may come up as something controversial. It's not controversial at all. This is nectar of instruction. Nectar of instruction with the basic instruction for all devotees, even newcomers. First, identify 3 levels of devotees. And then depending on the 3 levels of devotees, you know how to identify them, okay? And then choose how to associate with them based on their category. If they're Kanishta, offer them obeisances from a distance, he says. That means don't get too involved, but respect the fact that they're devotees. 2, if they're Madhyama, they're very progressive, make friends with them. And 3, if they're completely dedicated and very advanced, serve them. So that's association. Association is not the same with all devotees. If we do it that way, we might find ourselves in very difficult situations. We have to learn to identify very well based on how he's, the qualities that he's given. So association also has to be done very scientifically. And then once we're in that association, then we'll cry. It could be a good cry or a bad cry. It all depends. But thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Did Angel want to say? Andrea, go ahead, Andrea.
No, if somebody else wanted to speak, I can go after.
I saw Angel in front of the camera. Angel, come up here. Haripusha Prabhu, unmute yourself.
What do you want?
Angel, he wanted to ask a question.
Angel. Come here. He's coming.
I just wanted to thank you for a great class. And I just want to say one of the difficulties of trying to help somebody who's fallen is to do it in a way that you don't seem to be judgmental. You don't want to start just admonishing them. So, I probably don't have much time. I wanted to just get into that. How do you help somebody without seeming to be judgmental? They say, don't judge, ye be judged.
Yes, that's a very important point. Thank you, Prabhu. Because sometimes that's not what, someone just needs some care and love and affection, not judgmentalism. That's a very good point. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing. Excellent point.
Thank you.
Andrea.
Hare Krishna, Madana, Gopal, Prabhu. I had a quick takeaway from what you've shared today. What I really heard you say is, which I recently heard Gaura Kumar Prabhu say in another Sangha that I was in with him, that he said that philosophy can only take you so far, but to go further and to go to the furthest, you need love and relationships, and that the ultimate goal is love. And I really heard that from your presentation today, and even from what Haripurusha Prabhu shared and Angel as well. It's that people don't need the judgment, they need the love and the relationship. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, encouragement, love. Sometimes we may also need to be trained on how to apply encouragement, because we may be well-meaning, but we're conditioned that our words come out and may be perceived as judgmental, which is what, and it's not an easy thing to do, by the way. It only comes with some experience. And we can blunder, especially when someone is very sensitive. It's a delicate situation. We say the wrong words, it can really trigger something, so it's not easy to do. However, if we just always maintain a mood of always trying to help and be encouraging, then Krishna will help us say the right things. And sometimes we don't have to say anything. You know, I think there's a saying that you should always preach all the time, and if necessary, use words. You know, that means most of preaching is not speaking. It's really how we behave, how lovingly we treat somebody. Please come take prasadam. Come, let's sit down. Why don't you sit with me? What's going on? That can be so much more powerful than quoting 20 Shastric verses, you know, depending on the situation, spiritually. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol.
Madana Gopal Prabhu, thank you very much. Beautiful class as always. You're the right man for the job. ISKCON Communication is lucky to have you. Very nice.
You're very kind, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.
Okay.
We'll see you
Hare
next
Krishna.
time. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Krishna. Bye everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great day, everyone. Hari Bol.
Feed the right wolf, starve the bad one. Starve him.